The blue-skinned alien named Vriltak shifted uncomfortably in his seat as he waited in the meeting room at NASA headquarters. His four eyes blinked at different times, scanning the room and all its exits. As an officer of the Galactic Coalition Security Force, he had met many new species, but something about these humans made his skin tingle with warning. The door opened, and Jack Harper walked in with a smile. He was a tall man with broad shoulders and a firm handshake that made Vriltak wince. "Sorry to keep you waiting," Jack said, sitting down across from the alien. "I hope you haven't been here long." Vriltak checked his translator device. "No, only 20 of your Earth minutes." Jack nodded and placed a folder on the table. "So, you're here to officially invite Earth to join the Galactic Coalition. That's quite an honor." "Yes," Vriltak said. "Your species has developed faster than most, achieving space travel and then warp capability within a single century is unusual." What Vriltak didn't say was how disturbing the Coalition found human physiology. Humans could run for hours without stopping. They could break bones and still fight. They could go days with little sleep. They healed from injuries that would kill most species, and they never, ever seemed to give up. "We are pleased to offer Earth Protectorate status," Vriltak continued. "You will receive our protection and guidance as you continue to develop." Jack's smile remained, but his eyes hardened slightly. "Protectorate status? I was under the impression we would be offered full membership." Vriltak's upper eyes blinked rapidly. "Full membership is usually granted after several centuries of protectorate status. It's for your own safety. The galaxy can be dangerous." Jack leaned forward. "Officer Vriltak, with all due respect, humanity has faced danger its entire existence. We've survived ice ages, plagues, world wars, and our own self-destructive tendencies. We appreciate the offer, but we would prefer equal member status." This was not how these meetings usually went. Most species were grateful for protection, eager to avoid the harsh realities of space. "That's not standard procedure," Vriltak said. "Perhaps we could negotiate terms," Jack suggested. "Earth has much to offer. Our medical knowledge alone. Humans can regenerate liver tissue, did you know that? And our understanding of extreme environments might be useful." Vriltak watched as Jack sipped his coffee, a bitter stimulant that would kill half the species in the Coalition. These humans willingly consumed poison for its effects. "I will need to consult with my superiors," Vriltak said finally. 3 hours later, after numerous transmissions to Coalition headquarters, Vriltak returned with a modified agreement. He still looked uncomfortable. "The Coalition is willing to grant Earth conditional member status," he said. "This is highly unusual, but your case has been deemed exceptional." Jack read through the document and nodded. "This seems fair. Earth thanks you for your flexibility." As they signed the agreement, Vriltak couldn't help but notice how steady Jack's hand was. No nervousness, no hesitation. That evening, Vriltak sent a private message to his commander. "Humans appear peaceful but display concerning traits. They show no fear in negotiation. They reject protection in favor of independence. Most troubling, their biology is designed for something they call persistence hunting. They chase prey until it collapses from exhaustion. They view obstacles as challenges rather than warnings. Recommend caution in all dealings. These humans are dangerously persistent." The commander's response was brief. Assessment noted. Monitor closely. Do not provoke. Little did the Galactic Coalition know that 5 years later they would be very glad to have humans on their side. And very glad they weren't the ones being hunted. 5 years passed since Earth joined the Galactic Coalition. The relationship had been good, if sometimes tense. Humans kept surprising the aliens with their odd behaviors and physical abilities. Officer Vriltak now worked as the main contact between Coalition security and Earth's space forces. He stood nervously before a screen showing the Coalition High Council. His blue skin had paled to a light azure. "The research vessel Stellar Mind has been taken," Vriltak reported. "The Screeth criminal group attacked it 3 days ago. They disabled our tracking systems and escaped with all the experimental technology on board. The lead council member, a tall, thin alien with skin like polished silver, leaned forward. "Where did they go, officer?" "Into the nebula zone," council leader Vriltak said. "Our ships have tried to follow, but the radiation and dust make it impossible for our crews to survive more than a few hours inside." The council members whispered among themselves. The nebula zone was known to be dangerous. Few species could handle its harsh conditions. "The technology on that ship must not fall into Screeth hands," the council leader said. "It could upset the balance of power in 3 sectors. A younger council member spoke up. "What about the humans? They seem to thrive in difficult environments." Silence fell across the room. Then slowly, reluctantly, the council leader nodded. "Contact Earth. Request their assistance." 2 days later, Lieutenant Kelly Morgan stood in a briefing room at the Coalition space station. She was a woman of average height with short brown hair and eyes that missed nothing. Vriltak noticed she stood perfectly still while listening. Another strange human trait. Most species fidgeted. "So this criminal group stole your research ship and flowed into a nebula that your people can't enter for long periods," Kelly summarized. "And you need us to get it back." "Correct," Vriltak said. "The nebula contains high levels of radiation, dense dust clouds, and unpredictable energy storms. Our species cannot withstand such conditions for the time needed to track the thieves." Kelly nodded. "Humans have worked in radiation zones before. We'll need special shielding, but we can handle it. I'll need a small team, quality over quantity for this mission." Vriltak handed her a datapad. "This is all we know about the Screeth and the stolen technology. The Coalition can provide a ship with modified shielding, but we cannot provide crew." "I already have people in mind," Kelly said, scanning the information. "We'll need to move fast before they get too far." Within 12 hours, Kelly had assembled her team. They met aboard the provided Coalition vessel, which Kelly promptly renamed Relentless Pursuit. "This is Paul Bennett." Kelly introduced a tall, solid man with dark skin and watchful eyes. "Former military, security specialist." Paul nodded but said little. "Amy Rivera, our engineer," Kelly continued, pointing to a woman with long black hair tied back in a practical ponytail. "She can fix anything that breaks. And I usually improve it too," Amy added with a smile. "And finally, San Nguyen, communications and data analysis." San was shorter than the others, with quick movements and quicker eyes. "I've studied what we have on Screeth communication patterns. I might be able to track them by their transmissions." Vriltak watched the humans with concern. Just 4 of them against a Screeth crew of at least 20. It seemed impossible. Yet none of them showed fear. "The Coalition doesn't expect you to succeed," Vriltak admitted. "The Nebula Zone has claimed many ships." Kelly smiled. It wasn't a happy smile, but something harder. "With respect, Officer Vriltak, you don't know humans very well yet. We don't like being told something is impossible." As the humans prepared for departure, Vriltak sent another message to his superiors. "Humans have accepted the mission. They seem confident despite the odds. I cannot tell if this is bravery or foolishness." The reply came quickly. "Either way, they're our best hope. May their strange persistence serve us well." The Relentless Pursuit entered the nebula zone with a gentle shudder. Outside the view screens, purple and green gases swirled like colorful fog. Occasional flashes of energy lit up the darkness. Kelly sat in the captain's chair, watching the readings. The Coalition advisor, a small green alien named Zix, looked very uncomfortable. "How are the radiation levels?" Kelly asked. Amy checked her screens. "High, but our suits can handle it. The ship's shielding is holding." Zix's eyes widened. "You should feel sick already. Most species would be vomiting by now." Paul smiled slightly. "Humans are weird that way. We've survived radiation before." "Got something," Sam called from the communication station. faint energy trail matching the stolen ship. They went deeper in. Kelly nodded. Follow it. For 3 days, they tracked the Screeth ship through the nebula. The humans worked in shifts, 6 hours on, 6 hours off. Zix was amazed. "You need so little rest," he said to Kelly. "We're pushed, but not at our limits," Kelly replied. "Humans can go days without sleep if needed." Zix shivered. "That's not natural." On the 4th day, Sam spotted a problem. "The trail splits here. They've separated into 3 ships." The coalition advisor slumped. "It's over then. We can't follow 3 ships." Kelly looked at her team. "Sam, can you tell which ship is the main one?" Sam studied the data. "Based on energy output, I guess this one." He pointed to the middle trail. "Good. We'll follow that one," Kelly decided. "But the other ships could have the technology," Zix protested. "They wouldn't split it up," Paul said. "Too valuable. Their leader will keep it close." The relentless pursuit continued deeper into the nebula. The radiation grew stronger. Strange magnetic fields made the instruments flicker. "How can you navigate in this?" Zix asked, holding onto his seat as the ship jolted. Amy grinned. "It's not so different from driving through a bad storm on Earth. You look for patterns." Meanwhile, aboard the main Screeth vessel, the leader watched his screens with growing concern. Drazkar was tall and thin with gray scaly skin and yellow eyes. He had stolen many ships before, but never had anyone followed him into the nebula. "They're still behind us," his second-in-command reported. "1 ship. Who would be foolish enough to follow us here?" Drazkar hissed. "The ship is registered to the Coalition, but our spies say it's crewed by humans." Drazkar's yellow eyes narrowed. "Humans. Those new creatures. What do we know about them?" "Very little. They joined the Coalition 5 years ago. They come from a high-gravity planet called Earth." Drazkar waved a dismissive hand. "Just 1 ship. They'll turn back soon enough. The deeper parts of the nebula will stop them." But the human ship didn't turn back. It kept following, even as the nebula grew more dangerous. Energy storms raged around them, but the humans simply adjusted their course and continued. On the 6th day, Sam called out excitedly, "I found them. The main Screeth ship is hiding in that asteroid field ahead." Kelly smiled. "Perfect. They think the asteroids will hide them." "What's the plan?" Paul asked, checking his weapon. "They don't know much about humans," Kelly said. "Let's use that. They expect anyone following them to give up. We won't." Zix looked nervous. "The Screeth are dangerous fighters." Kelly nodded. "So are we. Amy, take us in slowly. Sam, monitor their communications. Paul, prepare for possible boarding." As the relentless pursuit moved carefully into the asteroid field, Kelly sent a message to Coalition Command. "Have located primary Screeth vessel. Moving to intercept." The reply came back quickly. "Extreme caution advised. Do not engage unless absolutely certain of success." Kelly read the message and smiled. The Coalition still didn't understand humans very well. "Let's go say hello," she told her crew. The relentless pursuit drifted between large asteroids, its engines quiet. Kelly had ordered minimal power to avoid detection. Inside the ship, the humans prepared for contact with the Screeth. "Their ship is just beyond that large asteroid," Sam whispered, though there was no need to be quiet in space. Kelly nodded. "Any communication from them?" "Nothing yet. I don't think they've spotted us." Paul checked his weapon one last time. "How do you want to play this?" "Let's talk first," Kelly said. "Fighting should be our last option." Amy looked up from her console. "I've got something ready, just in case. I've modified our tractor beam to attach a tracking device to their hull." Kelly smiled. "Good thinking." The Coalition advisor Zix stared at the humans with a mix of fear and wonder. They were calm despite the danger ahead. "Ready?" Kelly asked her team. They all nodded. "Then let's make ourselves known. Sam, open a channel." Sam pressed a few buttons. Channel open. Kelly spoke clearly. Screeth vessel. This is Lieutenant Kelly Morgan of the Earth vessel, Relentless Pursuit. You have stolen Coalition property. Power down and prepare to be boarded. For a long moment, there was silence. Then a hissing voice replied, Human vessel, this is Drazkar of the Screeth. You are brave to follow us here. Perhaps brave, perhaps foolish. On the screen, a thin gray alien appeared. His yellow eyes seemed to glow. We want no fight with you, humans, Drazkar continued. The Coalition sent you on a suicide mission. They do not expect you to return. Leave now, and you may live. Kelly kept her face neutral. We're not leaving without the stolen technology, Drazkar. The Screeth leader's eyes narrowed. You cannot take it from us. We outnumber you. Numbers aren't everything, Paul said quietly. Drazkar heard him and hissed. You should listen to your Coalition friends. The nebula will kill you slowly. Turn back. Kelly leaned forward. That's not how humans work, Drazkar. We don't give up easily. Something in her tone made Drazkar pause. He studied the human's face. This is your final warning, he said at last. Leave or be destroyed. Kelly shook her head. Not an option. Drazkar cut the communication. Seconds later, the Screeth ship's engines flared to life. They're making a run for it, Sam reported. Follow them, Kelly ordered. Amy, get that tracker ready. The Relentless Pursuit shot forward, weaving between asteroids in pursuit of the larger Screeth vessel. The Screeth ship fired back, energy weapons flashing in the darkness of space. Paul took control of their defenses, returning fire with precise shots. I'm aiming for their engines, not trying to destroy them. The chase continued through the asteroid field, both ships taking minor damage. The humans worked as one unit, each focusing on their task without panic. I need to get closer for the tracker, Amy called out. Kelly nodded. Paul, give us cover fire. Sam, any weaknesses in their shield pattern? Sam studied his readings. There's a fluctuation on their port side. Their shield is weaker there. Got it, Kelly said, taking us in. The Relentless Pursuit dove toward the Screeth ship, dodging weapons fire. For a brief moment, they came alongside the larger vessel. Now, Kelly shouted. Amy fired the modified tractor beam. A small device shot out and attached to the Screeth ship's hull. Tracker planted, Amy announced triumphantly. The Screeth ship suddenly accelerated, pushing deeper into the nebula. Its weapons stopped firing as it focused all power on escape. Should we keep following? Sam asked. Kelly shook her head. No need. We can track them now. She turned to the communication console. Coalition Command, this is Morgan. We've made contact with the Screeth and placed a tracker on their vessel. They're currently fleeing deeper into the nebula. The reply came quickly. Return to base. Lieutenant, you've done enough. Kelly smiled at her team before responding. Negative, Command. We're continuing pursuit. Morgan out. Zix stared at her. They just ordered you to return. They suggested we return, Kelly corrected. And we respectfully decline. The mission isn't complete. As the Relentless Pursuit followed the tracker's signal, Drazkar watched his own screens with growing concern. These humans were not behaving like any species he had encountered before. They should have given up by now. Why are they still following? He muttered. What kind of creatures are these humans? Drazkar paced the bridge of his ship, his clawed feet clicking against the metal floor. 3 days had passed since the confrontation in the asteroid field. 3 days of running at maximum speed. 3 days of pushing his engines beyond safe limits. And still the humans followed. This is impossible, he hissed to his second-in-command. No species should be able to maintain pursuit this long. Their ship must be falling apart. Their crew must be exhausted. His second-in-command checked the sensors again. They remain exactly 30,000 units behind us. They have not gained or lost distance. Drazkar slammed his fist on a console. How? How are they doing this? Aboard the relentless pursuit, the human crew was indeed tired, but far from giving up. They had established a routine. While 2 crew members slept, the other 2 handled the ship. Then they switched. The small vessel was designed for a crew of 8, but 4 humans were managing it well enough. Kelly sat in the captain's chair, drinking her 6th cup of coffee that day. Her eyes were slightly red, but alert. "Status report," she said. Paul looked up from his console. "Ship is holding together. We've rerouted power from non-essential systems to maintain speed." Sam nodded from his station. "Tracker's still functioning perfectly. They haven't detected it." The Coalition advisor Zix watched them with growing amazement. "You've been awake for 20 hours, he said to Kelly. "How are you functioning?" Kelly smiled tiredly. "Coffee helps. And this isn't my first long mission." Zix shook his head. "The Screeth are pushing their engines to dangerous levels. Most species would have given up by now." Paul looked over at the small alien. "On Earth, we have something called persistence hunting. Our ancient ancestors would chase animals until they collapsed from exhaustion. We're not the fastest or strongest species, but we can outlast almost anything." Zix's eyes widened. "You evolved as pursuit predators." "Something like that," Kelly said. "We're stubborn. And right now, Drazkar is learning that running from humans is a bad idea. The longer he runs, the more determined we get." On the Screeth vessel, alarms began to sound. "Engine temperature critical," a crew member reported. "We must reduce speed or risk explosion." Drazkar's yellow eyes narrowed in anger. "And if we slow down, the humans will catch us." "Perhaps they will also need to slow down," his second-in-command suggested. "Their ship is smaller, their engines less powerful." "So one would think," Drazkar muttered. "Fine. Reduce speed by 20%, but be ready to accelerate again if they gain on us." The Screeth ship slowed slightly. Within minutes, the humans had closed the gap to 25,000 units. "They're still coming," reported a nervous crew member. "They haven't slowed at all." Drazkar felt real fear for the first time in many cycles. What are these creatures? Desperate for escape, Drazkar ordered his ship toward a nearby solar system. The star was unstable, releasing bursts of radiation that would kill most life forms. Surely this would stop the humans. "We're approaching a Class 9 radiation zone," Sam reported on the human vessel. "The star ahead is highly unstable." Kelly nodded. "They're hoping the radiation will stop us." "Will it not?" Zix asked nervously. Amy looked up from her engineering station with a smile. "We can modify our shields. It'll be unpleasant, but we can handle it for a while." The humans worked quickly to adjust their shielding. The relentless pursuit entered the dangerous star system just minutes behind the Screeth. The radiation levels climbed rapidly. Even with their modified shields, the humans began to feel the effects. Headaches, nausea, but they pushed through. Kelly took small sips of water, fighting back her body's desire to vomit. Status of the Screeth ship. "They've slowed again," Sam reported, wiping sweat from his forehead. "Their shielding isn't designed for this kind of radiation." "Good," Kelly said. "Let them know we're still here." Sam opened a channel, and Kelly spoke despite her dry throat. "Screeth vessel, this is the relentless pursuit. We're still behind you, Drazkar. We can do this all day." There was no reply, but sensors showed the Screeth ship accelerating again, burning precious fuel to escape the humans who simply would not stop. Word began to spread through Coalition space about the strange humans who pursued the dreaded Screeth through nebulas and radiation zones without relenting. Many species listened to the reports with growing awe and fear. And deep in his ship, Drazkar began to understand. He had made a terrible mistake when he decided to run. After 5 days of constant pursuit, Drazkar knew he needed a new plan. Running wasn't working. These humans were like nothing he had encountered before. They simply would not stop. "We will set a trap," he told his crew. "There is an abandoned mining facility on the third moon of this system. We know its layout. The humans do not." His second-in-command nodded. "We can use the old tunnels to our advantage." The Screeth ship changed course, heading for a small gray moon. The relentless pursuit followed closely behind. Sam noticed the change immediately. "They're heading for that moon. Looks like an old mining colony." Kelly studied the readings. "Scanned for life forms." "None detected," Sam replied. "But there are lots of metal structures that could block our scanners." Paul checked his weapon. "It's a trap." Kelly nodded. "Almost certainly." "Then we shouldn't go in," Six said, his voice rising in panic. Kelly smiled. "Actually, we should, but on our terms." The human crew gathered around the small table in the ship's mess area. Kelly pulled up a rough map of the mining facility based on their scans. "They expect us to follow them in blindly," she said. "So we won't. Paul, you and I will enter from the main dock, making lots of noise. Sam and Amy will use the emergency airlock on the far side. Divide their attention." Paul nodded. "Good. The gravity will be set to Screeth standard," Kelly continued. "That's about 80% of Earth normal. Use it to your advantage." Amy grinned. "That means we can jump farther and hit harder." "What about weapons?" Sam asked. Kelly pointed to the storage locker. "Standard issue won't be enough. Amy, can you put together something more effective from the mining equipment?" Amy's eyes lit up. "Absolutely. Give me 2 hours." Kelly nodded. "One more thing. Sam, bring the audio files you've been analyzing. I have an idea." 2 hours later, the relentless pursuit docked at the abandoned mining facility. The humans moved quietly in their spacesuits, weapons ready. "Remember, they're expecting us," Kelly whispered over the comm. "Paul, stay with me. Amy, Sam, circle around to position B. And Zix." The small alien jumped at the sound of his name. "Stay on the ship," Kelly finished. "Monitor our vital signs." Inside the facility, Drazkar positioned his crew carefully. "The humans will come through the main entrance," he told them. "We will catch them in crossfire from these 2 corridors." But as the minutes passed, there was no sign of the humans. Then a sound echoed through the old metal hallways. Strange, rhythmic thumping. "What is that?" a Screeth crew member asked nervously. Another sound joined the first, a high-pitched wailing noise that made the Screeth scales stand on end. "It's coming from all directions," someone reported. Drazkar realized what was happening. "They're using sound to confuse us. Don't fall for it." But his crew was already growing nervous, their heads turning to follow the strange noises that seemed to come from everywhere at once. Then the real attack began. From the main entrance, Kelly and Paul charged in, moving faster and jumping higher than the Screeth expected in the lower gravity. Their weapons fired with precision, not killing but disabling the Screeth they encountered. At the same time, from a maintenance shaft on the far side, Amy and Sam emerged. Amy carried what looked like a modified mining drill that shot pulses of energy, shorting out Screeth weapons. "Their bodies are different from ours," Sam called over the comm. "They can't turn their heads as far. Use their blind spots." The humans moved with coordinated grace, as if they had trained for this specific battle for years. They used the lower gravity to bounce off walls, leap over obstacles, and attack from unexpected angles. The Screeth, despite outnumbering the humans, began to panic. 3 were down within minutes, then 5, then 8. Drazkar watched in horror as his carefully planned ambush fell apart. These humans moved differently, fought differently. They weren't fighting like any species he knew. "Fall back to the control room," he ordered. As his remaining crew retreated, Drazkar made a decision. He would take the stolen technology and escape in the emergency shuttle. Let his crew deal with these relentless humans. What Drazkar didn't know was that Kelly had anticipated exactly this move. As he reached the shuttle bay, carrying a small metal case containing the precious technology, he found himself face to face with Paul Bennett. "Going somewhere?" Paul asked calmly. Drazkar turned to run the other way, but froze when he saw Kelly blocking that exit too. "Running from humans," Kelly said, shaking her head, "is always a terrible idea." Drazkar's yellow eyes darted between the two humans blocking his escape. His clawed hand tightened around the metal case containing the stolen technology. "You've lost, Drazkar," Kelly said calmly. "Hand over the case." But the Screeth leader wasn't ready to surrender. With surprising speed, he threw a small device to the floor. A bright flash filled the room, temporarily blinding the humans. By the time their vision cleared, Drazkar was gone. "He's running again," Paul said, checking his weapon. Kelly nodded. "Back to his ship." "No," Paul pointed to a blinking dot on his scanner. "Amy's tracker shows he's heading deeper into the mining facility." They contacted the rest of their team. Sam's voice came through the comm unit. "We've secured the control room. Most of the Screeth crew is either captured or locked in the storage area." "Good work," Kelly replied. "Drazkar is on the run with the technology. He's heading toward the lower levels." "The mine shafts," Amy said. "There could be other exits down there." Kelly made a quick decision. "Sam, Amy, stay with the prisoners. Make sure none escape. Paul and I will go after Drazkar." The two humans moved quickly through the metal corridors, following the tracker's signal. The facility grew darker as they descended, the old lighting systems failing in many areas. They switched on their helmet lights. "What do we know about Screeth physiology?" Kelly asked as they ran. Paul checked his datapad. "Better night vision than humans. Faster reflexes, but less endurance. They're built for short bursts of speed, not long chases." Kelly smiled. "Perfect." They entered a large chamber filled with old mining equipment. Rusted drills and conveyor belts stood silent in the dim light. The tracker showed Drazkar had passed through here minutes ago. Paul examined the floor. "Look at these footprints in the dust. He's moving fast, but getting sloppy. See how the prints get wider apart. He's pushing himself too hard." At that moment, their comm units crackled. Zix's voice came through, high with excitement. "Lieutenant Morgan, Coalition Command reports a small ship launching from the far side of the moon. It could be another Screeth vessel coming to help Drazkar." Kelly frowned. "How long until it arrives?" 20 minutes, perhaps less," Zix replied. "Then we need to finish this quickly," Kelly said. "Paul, let's split up. You go left through those tunnels. I'll go right. We'll trap him between us." Paul nodded and moved away, his footsteps fading into the darkness. Kelly continued alone, her breathing steady despite the long chase. She'd been awake for nearly 30 hours now, but adrenaline kept her alert. The tunnels twisted and turned, but the tracker guided her forward. Finally, she entered a huge open cavern. Her light barely reached the high ceiling. Mining platforms hung on chains above a deep pit, and there, on a platform in the center, stood Drazkar. "Stop running, Drazkar," Kelly called, her voice echoing in the vast space. "There's nowhere left to go." The Screeth leader turned, his yellow eyes reflecting her light. "You humans are incredible," he said, his voice a mixture of fear and admiration. "I've fled across star systems. I've hidden in radiation zones that would kill most species. I set a trap with my best warriors. And still you come." Kelly stepped carefully onto the metal walkway leading to the central platform. "The technology, please." Drazkar held up the case. "Do you even know what this is? What it can do?" "That's not my concern," Kelly replied. "My job is to return it to the Coalition." "Your Coalition allies don't tell you everything," Drazkar hissed. "This device could change the balance of power in the galaxy. That's why I took it." Kelly kept walking forward slowly, last chance to surrender peacefully. Drazkar looked at the human approaching him. She showed no fear, no exhaustion, only calm determination. Her kind had chased him relentlessly across space. There would be no escape. With a sudden movement, he threw the case at Kelly's feet and turned to leap onto another platform. "Take it then, but you'll never catch me." Kelly didn't move to pick up the case. Instead, she smiled slightly and spoke into her calm. "Paul, he's coming your way." As Drazkar landed on the far platform, a light snapped on, revealing Paul Bennett standing there, weapon raised. "Going somewhere?" Paul asked for the second time that day. Drazkar froze, his chest heaving from exertion. He looked back at Kelly, who was calmly collecting the case. "How?" Drazkar gasped. "How do you keep finding me? How do you never stop?" "That's what humans do," Kelly said simply. "When we start something, we finish it." From above came the sound of a ship docking. The Screeth reinforcements had arrived. But they were too late. Kelly secured Drazkar's hands with restraints while Paul picked up the case. Mission accomplished. The relentless pursuit docked at Coalition headquarters 2 weeks after beginning its mission. The ship looked worn, with scorch marks along its hull from the battles and harsh conditions it had endured. But it had returned triumphant. Kelly and her team led a restrained Drazkar down the exit ramp. Paul carried the case containing the stolen technology. A crowd of Coalition officials and security personnel waited for them, their expressions a mixture of amazement and relief. Officer Vriltak rushed forward to meet them. "You actually did it," he said, his blue skin paling with surprise. "The entire Coalition has been following your pursuit. Many betting pools lost money today." Kelly raised an eyebrow. "People bet against us." "Nearly everyone," Vriltak admitted. "No one believed you could capture Drazkar. He has evaded our best hunters for years." Drazkar, standing between his human captors, looked defeated but oddly calm. "Your species is remarkable," he said to Kelly. "I've never seen anything like you." Coalition security officers came to take Drazkar away. As they led him off, he called back over his shoulder. "Ask them what's in the case, Vriltak. Ask them what they're really protecting." The council leader approached, taking the case from Paul with careful hands. "The Coalition thanks you for your service," he said formally. "You have done what we thought impossible." Later, in a private debriefing room, Kelly and her team sat around a table with Vriltak and 2 council members. "We want to understand," one council member said. "How did you maintain pursuit for so long? How did you not give up?" Kelly looked at her team, then back at the aliens. "It's what humans do. We're not the strongest or fastest species, but we can outlast almost anything. Our ancient ancestors hunted by following prey until it collapsed from exhaustion." "But you were in space," Vriltak said, confused. "Not on a hunt." "The principle is the same," Paul explained. "We commit to a goal and keep going. Once humans decide to catch something, we rarely stop until we do." The council members exchanged glances. A persistent predator species with advanced technology is concerning. Kelly smiled. "Only if you're running from us. We make better friends than enemies." Amy leaned forward. "Now that we've answered your questions, we have one. What was in that case?" Drazkar seemed to think it was important we know. The room fell silent. Finally, the lead council member spoke. "A prototype for faster-than-light communication. It would allow instant messaging across the galaxy. Knowledge of its existence could destabilize several treaties." San nodded slowly. "That explains the secrecy, and why you were desperate to get it back." The debriefing continued for another hour. When it ended, the humans returned to their temporary quarters. They were heroes now, their stories spreading throughout Coalition space. The next morning, Kelly was surprised to find a new security directive being distributed to all Coalition species. She read it on her datapad with growing amusement. "Have you seen this?" she asked her team at breakfast. Paul looked over her shoulder and smiled. "Well, that's flattering. The directive was simple but clear. In the event of pursuit by human forces, immediate surrender is strongly advised. Attempting to flee or evade humans has been proven ineffective and will only extend pursuit time. Unlike most species, humans become more determined when chase conditions become difficult. Remember, running from a human is a terrible idea. A week later, as the humans prepared to return to Earth, Vriltak approached Kelly with news. "The Council has created a new special response team," he said, "for situations that require persistence. They want humans to lead it." Kelly considered this. "Will we have equal authority? Not just be tools to be used when convenient?" Vriltak nodded. "The Council has learned its lesson. You will have full command authority." Kelly smiled. "Then I think we can work something out." As they boarded their ship for the journey home, Sam looked back at the Coalition headquarters. "You know what's funny? 5 years ago, they barely wanted to let us join. Now they're creating special teams just for us. All because one criminal decided to run," Amy added with a laugh. Paul nodded. "And running from humans is a terrible idea." They all finished together. In his prison cell, Draskar heard stories of the new human-led teams. He wasn't surprised. He had learned the hard way what the rest of the galaxy was now discovering. Some species could be defeated by running, by hiding, by fighting. But not humans. Never humans.